Pretty good pop. Hi there, welcome to Nonsense Whisky. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we've got something that's kind of a little bit special because it's really brand new on the UK market. I'm not sure how far reaching this goes, I'm not sure if you'll be able to get this everywhere, but this is quite prevalent in the UK market right now. You can definitely get it, it's pretty available on all the websites. It's roughly £45 in the UK, but we'll get into the price in a little bit about how I got hold of it. But today we've got the Hatozaki Pure Malt. Now this, as you can see, is Japanese whiskey. Now I don't cover a hell of a lot of Japanese whiskey on the channel. That's because it's quite rare at the moment to find kind of really good Japanese whiskey. Just as I was starting the channel about 3 years ago, it was really easy to get hold of, but it got itself a bit of a reputation, so the popularity just blew up and the stocks just aren't there to kind of meet that demand. This is part of a new wave of whiskies that are coming out, no age statements. Don't know how old this is, but again, we'll come into that a little bit later. Some interesting information about that. This is a relatively new distillery, and it's the Kaikyo Distillery. Don't know if I'm saying that right. The family that produces it has been making stuff since the early 1900s, but they traditionally made sake. Because it's in Akashi, they can't call it the Akashi Distillery because there's already an Akashi whiskey out there made by the White Oak Distillery. So they've kind of called themselves this Kaikyo Distillery, even though it's kind of a sake brewery, whatever. Now Hatozaki is named after the lighthouse that's just round the corner from them. It's the oldest stone lighthouse in Japan, and the whole site is about an hour away from Osaka, so that gives you a kind of general ballpark about where this thing is. Things I like about this whiskey is it's relatively affordable, it's less than 50 quid, 46%, and it's natural coloured and non-chill filtered. Now the colour, for a start, is quite pale, quite straw-like, so you'd hope it was natural coloured, because if they've added colour to that I'd be bitterly disappointed. It's a funny one because, as I said earlier, more information about the distillery. Now according to website Nomunication, this guy covers kind of Japanese alcohol in general, the drinking scene in alcohol. Now he did a little bit of digging in November last year, 2018, and found out that the company that owns this distillery only had a license to distill from May 2017. So even if that is true, that would make this like 2 years old. So it absolutely cannot be 2 years old unless they were producing before that illegally, or it's all imported stuff. Now I know that a portion of this is imported whiskey. It's all apparently malted barley, hence the pure malt thing, but really, I mean, they're not subject to the same rules as Scotch Whisky Association whiskies are, so it could have malt in it for any kind of reason. I don't know. It's really hard to find information about it. It really is hard to find information about it. So allegedly, again, this whiskey is aged in ex-bourbon, ex-sherry and ex-Mizunara wood, so it should kind of bring that kind of Japanese element to it. But really we don't know if this whiskey was produced at Kaikyo or anything like that. We just don't know. There's no information out there. You're just going to have to try it and see if you like it. Let's get into the tasting and see if I like it and if it was worth the money that we paid. Now, I did also say earlier about how I got hold of this thing. So this is part of a subscription service that I joined called the Somerton Whisky Club. For that, I pay £50 every 2 months and they send me a bottle of whiskey. So this one here, the idea is that you'd get whiskey that's valued higher than you pay, including delivery. So £50 is flat rate, there's no deliveries on top of that. This one here came in at £45 and is that on the UK market right now. So even with postage, I've saved maybe £1 or £2, but bless the guys at Somerton, they did send an apology immediately because they were quoted over £50 for this when it was going to come to the UK market. And then when it was actually released, it came in at £45. So I'm not too bothered. I think I still got a good deal. Again, it's not something that I would have gone out and purchased straight off the bat anyway, but it's a good opportunity for me to try it by being part of this club, taking that kind of decision making out of it for me and trying things that I wouldn't normally reach for, which is good on a channel like this. because I get to try things that I wouldn't normally reach for, precisely that. Let's get onto the nose and talk about what's inside the glass, shall we? So on the nose for me, quite a heavy amount of vanilla. It's very sweet on the nose, but there's some grassy and some cereal notes to it, some maltiness that I think betrays age to a certain extent. Now again, this is a no age statement whiskey, so I do not know the maximum or the minimum age in there. I would hope the minimum is 3, which leads me to believe that they didn't make it themselves. They're producing a blend from all over the place, including imported stuff. Probably some Scotch stuff in there as well. Let's check out the palate. It's got a quite nice, invigorating palate. Quite high peppery notes. Almost a touch aniseed. I mean, really digging deep, that is, touch aniseed. Loads more vanilla and loads more of that kind of malty flavour that we were getting a bit earlier. And the finish, actually surprisingly long. Long and spicy, I would say medium to long. Quite spicy, quite warming. Now, altogether, it's actually a very enjoyable whiskey. The big crux of it is it's surprisingly expensive for what I think it is. I'm happy that I've got a bottle of it, because if I wasn't a member of this club, then I don't think I would have bought it. But the real crux of it is, would I buy it again? And the answer is probably no. I think it's a little young for what they're selling it for. I think they're kind of riding off the back of the popularity of Japanese whiskey at the moment. The fact that we just really can't get it means that people will see this Japanese writing very much in the style of Suntory and go, oh, Japanese whiskey that I haven't heard of, must get, must get, must get. And I think that's the kind of vein we're looking at. Hopefully, the stuff that they're producing there now will just meet that demand in, you know, a decade's time to come. If people still care about Japanese whiskey, I'm sure they will. But right now, I have to say, I'm not sure this is worth running out to purchase if you love Japanese whiskey. If you love whiskey in general, of course it's worth trying. It's a good whiskey, it's very tasty. For me, I think it could do with being about £10 cheaper on the UK market, but that's just my personal feelings on it. Hopefully, if you've tried it, you can let me know what you think. I know not many of you will have tried it yet. There's a few Somerton people, but there you go. There's my thoughts on this brand new whiskey. For me, I'm going to enjoy it. Hopefully, you will too. If you don't, it's just one of those things. What's inside the glass, shall we? Did that just go off? I think it's reaching the end of its life cycle. Loads more vanilla,